Me, another pundit's pundit for a Wednesday. And normally you don't normally see a three-head thing here, three-headed monster here. Normally you would see Denzel, but he's got a little bit of stuff going on tonight. So I said I would produce, and I'm working my way onto that right now. So tonight we have Scott and we've got Jordan and no Denzel. So I'll take the whole thing, and we got four really good topics. Four tremendous topics. I can't wait for these. But the main thing right now we've got is the prime pundit points. And one of the things I'll say right now is I'm going to go last. So, Scott, do you want to go first?
Sure, why not?
Go ahead.
All right, my prime pundit point is Michigan basketball becomes the first team since the Field of 64 was introduced to have two top 15 picks, and miss the tournament. Mind you, to add insult to injury, his son was one of those first-round picks and is with the Orlando Magic. Oh my, well, John Beilein was let go by the Detroit Pistons as a developmental coach, so you never know whether or not he'll be circulating back to Ann Arbor. But think about it. You know, Juwan Howard and the Michigan Wolverines don't make the NCAA tournament, but yet get two first-round picks. Go figure.
So my prime pundit point is the Colorado Rockies stand at 31-50. Manager Bud Black is on the hot seat. Now, he's been the Rockies manager since 2017, and the Rockies have gone to the postseason twice, 2017 and 2018 with him as manager. His overall record is 448 and 503, a winning percentage of .471. It is time to cut ties with him, but I wouldn't do it this season. The reason why is the Rockies aren't going to the postseason. They stand 17 and a half games behind Arizona for first place and 14 and a half games from the last wildcard spot, which is held by the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, the Rockies are most likely going to lose 100 games, so therefore I think they should wait until the end of the season to dismiss him, and that way general manager Bill Schmidt can find a new manager and just start fresh.
All right. Today on my TikTok, I took a little bit of a beating from people. Right now, I've got myself quite a few extra followers, a few extra watchers, and a lot of hate. And I'll tell you why I've got a lot of hate. It's because I watched this morning Sarah Walsh on NFL Network give a real rant about basically her husband and all the golf he wants to play. Now, this wasn't a thing against him necessarily. You don't know the guy. You don't know anything like that. But what I was doing is I was agreeing with Sarah Walsh, which got all of the men children all over the place, all over me for it. This is what I was saying. I said, all right, she's correct on something like this, because to play that much golf, are you going pro? No. Are you making a business deal? If you're not doing either of those things, then why would you need, if you're doing one or two of those things, then why would you need permission? Like, her complaint was that he could have to get permission all the time, which he'd complain about. But you don't need to get permission if you're doing one of those things, because money's involved. This is what's not understood. They're playing so much and not getting paid. Golf's an expensive hobby. And see, you get something like this, and so you get something like this, and you want to play all the time. You play 18 holes, you play the greens fees, and then you go to the clubhouse, and then the drinks and the food, everything costs. And then you're doing that all the time. You know he's making good money if he's doing it. You know she's making good money if she has it on the NFL Network. But it could be making more money, but he's wasting money. That was my point of everything. That's what a lot of husbands do. And this is what a lot of men do. It's the fact they do everything to want to quote unquote relax. That was another one of their complaints. We can relax all we want to, but there's the problem. You're thinking of relaxing. You're not thinking of the next big thing. And in this day and age, you can never have enough money. So yeah, you get over my case for talking about how Sarah Walsh is correct. Look yourself in the mirror for a second and why. What your problem is before going after me. And that's what my thing is right now, because there's a beating that I took, but I don't care. That was the big deal.
I've taken worse beatings than you. I remember years ago, I called the entire Montreal fan base of Montreal morons when they were booing the national anthem. And if you think you took a beating, you get nothing compared to what I got on the Detroit Sports Broadcasters Association website. My story was so controversial, they had to take it down with the amount of death threats I got. And then I wrote a follow-up on it, but thankfully I didn't get killed. But boy, I'll tell you, I had a lot of Canadian people very upset with me.
Oh, understood.
They were booing our national anthem. I said, you know what? I can handle a lot of things, but I can't handle that. It was between the Bruins and the Canadians, and you know that they're hated rivals. So go
absolutely, and that's just the whole thing I'm bringing. I just want the world to understand there's a reason why I say I would agree with someone like her on that. This isn't a feminist thing. Yeah. This isn't I'm going to go for the woman thing. This isn't even an anti-man thing. I'm trying to make men stronger. But to be stronger, you got to get a mind, not just your body.
Welcome to 2023, Jacob.
Yeah.
Exactly. I know, right? Social media. Gotta love it.
If we've got it up, let's get to the first topic. Going to go to the thing tonight. We got this. I'm going to bring it. If we don't have it yet, we're going to see this. So one of the things I've got tonight, it's about Qatar. Now, a lot of people are not. Yeah, the Qatar Sports Ministry investing in the Washington Capitals and Wizards. $4.05 billion. And now we also, besides that fact, you also have the PGA Tour with the PIF and LIV golf. That's a merger. We see. Guess what? People, all these people are complaining. All the sports writers complaining about this. And I'm not saying this is right, but they're complaining about this. But they don't want to complain about NBA with China, China has just as much the human rights issues. Just as many human rights issues as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, everything. They've got just as many, but they're told not to say anything. That's the biggest difference. And I was going to bring this, and I'm going to bring my part up, but I'm going to do what Denzel does. I'm going to hand it over to you, Scott, then you, Jordan.
Follow the money. And that seems where everybody seems to be doing anyways, right? Live ended up wearing out the PGA Tour because they had deep pockets, and now all of a sudden you have a similar and you know what? Here's the thing: don't be surprised to see more of these things. Once it happens once, and then you win in, and then you end up forcing a merger. Although there won't be a merger in this case, it's just more money to invest into the product at that point. I'm just waiting for the next one to happen. Now that we got the Live PGA merger, okay, pretty much right. And now you have Qatar, is that how they pronounce it?
Qatar, yeah.
Qatar, okay. Investing into the Washington teams of all teams. It's not like they invested into a team that didn't have enough money. Ted Leonsis is not a poor guy at all. You just wonder when the next one's going to happen, really. That's what I wonder. Do I have a problem with it? No, not really. At this particular point, you have to just understand what the times are. You look at all the transactions that are involved nowadays for a substantial amount of money, whether it's the NBA or whatever. I mean, does anybody ever forget that? Was it Prokhorov that invested into the Nets for a while too? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about overseas money invested into that. I mean, he wasn't well received that badly either. He had a lot of money. He was a behind the scenes guy, let his basketball people do what he had to do. But again, you're talking foreign money and they're willing to invest. So how do I really become difficult with the Qatar, Washington Capitals, Wizards? I really don't. I understand this and totally get it.
Well, and the thing being, one of the things that we have also is look at how ownerships are right now, for one thing. You have, one of the things is look at Sacramento Kings. You have Vivek Ramaswamy.
Right.
You have, not Ramaswamy, that's the presidential thing, but that's the presidential.
No, I know where you're coming from.
But yeah, you have I forget his last name thing, but you've got him as the owner, and then you've got a big consortium, huge consortium, which Shaquille O'Neal was, and he had 4% of it. Sold then got about $2 billion. So he's making. Look at all that money he can get. It's all of those. It's not the same anymore as far as ownership. So I can get mad at Stan Kroenke all I want to, but it's a different type of world that we are living in as far as the ownership deals. And what do we do in situations like that? It's like, what do we do? There's new owners are coming in from everywhere right now. How long before China gets in? especially with the NBA. You remember you brought up Prokhorov yourself, Scott.
Right.
You brought him up. You got to this thing. Right now, they're already trying to bring black owners, like bringing it like minority ownerships, trying to build it in to get to it. Eventually, we're going to see the first black owner of the NFL. I really believe that, but where do we get to that? And what do you think of that, Jordan?
You know, the Broncos were close. They had a guy that's in Denver that, you know, had all this money who was, you know, black. He obviously didn't win it because of the Walmart hair. Right, exactly. The thing about Qatar, like you guys were talking about, it is going into, you know, the foreign markets. I mean, you hit it on the head. Prokhorov, you also had the Live Golf. Honestly, I'm not surprised this is going the way it's going, just because of the fact that you want to hit into those foreign markets. I understand Qatar and all their, you know, human rights, but at this point, who really cares? It's money. It's not my money. It's their money. And why not? If you're trying to grow the sports, why not do this? I got no problem with it. It's their money. They can do what they want. The thing is, though, is with these ownership groups, it's not just one person anymore. It's more than one person. So I'm fine with their stake. And like you were saying, Jacob, is Shaquille O'Neal invested, got a bunch out of it. This is probably going to be what's going to happen with them as well.
Well, keep in mind too, Tillman Fertitta, I believe, owns Houston Rockets. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you got more foreign money, and Qatar was a controversial choice to hold the World Cup, but they did, and they didn't do a bad job doing it either. They really didn't. So
No.
now that you have this transaction that's taking place, this is going to be a new trend. So anybody that wants to get bothered by it, don't, because you know and you know what, Jacob, you touched on a really good point. China is not a matter of if it's going to happen; it's a matter of when it's going to happen. That's all. This is inevitable if I ever saw one.
And
for sure.
Remember this part. There's been that thought process. Qatar had this last World Cup. One of the next ones up. Some of the next ones up, just because there's delays due to COVID. The next one's up is Saudi Arabia. One of the ones is Saudi Arabia, and they have a rivalry, huge. Literally, there was one that was like in, I believe, in the Emirates or wherever it was, or this last one. They had a little thing. It's like, thank you for the World Cup. You know, thank you for joining us at the World Cup. See you in 2026 at the time. Literally, Qatar did not matter. They brought it as such. There's a huge rivalry between the Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. Huge rivalry, and it's like three different personalities and all the money in the world. One is oil, one is tourism, one's sports. Right. And there's where the money is at that point in time. So it's tough to be able to figure, because you always want your American. But my thing is, do you think we'll ever get to a time where we won't have American-owned teams of any type anymore?
I mean, that's where the trend is going. But I do think that there's still going to be American-owned people, though.
No, I think that I won't go with. There's enough American ownership there. Will another one now and then slip in? Yeah, but no way.
Yeah.
No. I'm just asking. I wasn't saying.
I'm answering your question.
No.
And here's the thing. Now, every now and then you're going to run across a rich group or country that's going to walk in there and snap one up. But do I think it's a future trend?
No. I agree with you.
There's not that much foreign money out there to buy every team on the planet.
No, exactly. I agree with Scott. I don't think we're going to have foreign anything with all these ownerships. I think it'll be one or two, but otherwise the majority are going to be American.
Yeah.
Before we get on to the next one, I wanted to bring this part about Brian Davis.
Sure.
The thing about Brian Davis that we have right now is the fact that he might have had Saudi Arabia's backing, because he was trying to bring in he was trying to buy it for $7 billion in cash before the guarantee. And that was wasn't that with the Broncos?
Yes.
Yeah. He was trying to come in with $7 billion with cash. There is rumor he had Saudi money backing him, which right now is a bad thing, because this is the thing, though. It won't be forever that Saudi Arabia becomes an enemy. And I'm just going to tell you exactly why. Ukraine used to be an enemy. Now it's a rival. So it's like it's an ally. So it's like it won't be forever. I'll tell you when Saudi becomes a quote unquote ally, when Trump goes away. It's like the reason of the hate right now is not even necessary. There is the whole Jamal Khashoggi situation. I keep saying this over and over. Wouldn't be how many? I always ask this: how many journalists were killed in all those other years before that we did not hear about? the whole big thing right now became a story because people wanted to hate Trump.
Mhm.
It is the number one sport in the world. Hate Trump. Number 2 is the NFL. Like number 2 soccer, number 3 is NFL. I'm just being maybe being facetious, but it's like, and there is the reason. It's like you got to get to the story before continuing to hate that guy, and it's like, and that's where we're at with Saudi Arabia. And so basically, there are people. And then Brian Davis could easily say they didn't want a black owner, but at the same time, if he had Saudi money and he had the cash for it, then there was a mistake there.
Mhm.
But we had to think. Well, let's go on to the next one. Let's go on to the next
Well,
one.
before you do that, though,
Okay.
let me point something out. Like Jordan mentioned, you got Walmart money involved, local Walmart American money involved. There was no way that if the Walmart people could get involved, they were going to be denied. No way.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just want to leave it on that note. I mean, forget about the other guy, okay, and the Saudi business. You had Walmart money involved, is what you had, and there's no way the NFL's turning down Walmart. No way.
Okay, let's get to the second topic right at this point in time right now. It's like they might get it put up, but I'm going to tell it right now. Hafsa Abdul Rahman, this one girl that there it is. She does the gritty. She is a 17-year-old that just graduated. She does the gritty on stage. The rules, and this is the thing. They said the rules on the thing was we don't want any cheering. We don't want any, which I don't understand that story. We don't want any standing ovations for anybody or anything. We just want to get it through and go. Well, she did a gritty, got a little bit of a chuckle, and she got the diploma backstage. They wouldn't give it to her on stage. Took it away from her and everything like that, and embarrassed her on stage. First, I want to ask this to the people that were in charge at the school. What is wrong with cheering? What is wrong with celebrating? What is wrong with all of this by itself? Every single time we are dealing with every one of these issues about racism, because racism is some people make racism into a victimless currency deal. It's not real, but they want to make it that way. In this case, this is what makes it look like it. This is what makes it look like it. Why would you take away a girl's graduation? Take that life, take her whole life and embarrass her in front of her family to not give her diploma because she wanted to have a little fun. And why did you take, and that's another question I have in high school, why did you take the fun away? It's like, just for the time frame, for the everything. It's not like that this was anything cut short because of COVID. That's over. That part is over as far as life. So let me ask that. I want to ask you, Scott, what do you think of that?
To me, it's a joke. Really? You're giving a person their diploma backstage? Really? That's absurd. It really is. Say what you want about celebrating and all that, but give me a break. I'm sorry. I mean, you work to me to get your diploma 4 years, right? In high school, whether you like it or you're not, you're at least entitled to have that one moment in front of your classmates, no matter what. And how the heck on earth are they going to deprive this individual, this student, to celebrate with the rest of her class? I don't get it. I think it's absolutely stupid.
I have to agree with Scott, but what she said in her comments were, this is part of what she said, that nobody should have been able to wave or blow kisses or do period sign, because I felt that's the same thing. She's completely right. But you worked 4 years to get the diploma. I mean, I know when I graduated, I don't know about you guys, but when I walked across the stage, granted, mine was outside, everybody was cheering. It doesn't make sense why they weren't allowed to cheer. I just don't get it by the school. I think the school definitely wanted to send a message, and they did it the wrong way, if you ask me.
I agree with you.
And,
I do.
Yeah. And well, my issue, like I said, I have a belief, and I brought this many a time, that we see a lot as the word racist as like victimhood with currency. Where it's like there are people that are looking for racism. They're out there. They're looking for trouble. They're looking for divide. They're looking for this. There's race grifters all over the place. I brought this up with one of my columns I wrote. There's race grifters all over the place. They want to keep the divide and the hate from us that want to be able to have this. That want to be able to have it close and be together. You know what I'm saying? But this looks racist. This looks very, very, Much so. I mean, someone doing it, and it wasn't even she caused a little bit of a chuckle. Didn't even cause a huge laugh. It didn't cost anything. And they did this, and it was a white woman that she's like, I'm going to pull it away and throw it into the basket. You don't get it now. And it's like, those are the kind of things that you're going to use. Even if there's 10,000 different things that were not racism, there's something right there that somebody on Twitter is going to be able to use.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I even looked at the video, and it didn't really look like she did much. So I still didn't understand why they refused it. It made zero sense to me, other than to make a point.
I mean, if they're looking for attention, that's not the way to get it.
Exactly.
Well, but there's every single time we have a situation like these where we can go, you're out of your mind. I'm like for instance, I remember reading a column once where someone said peanut butter and jelly was racist because it didn't go to everybody, and it's like, I
don't even mess up my favorite combination, please.
Yeah,
peanut butter and jelly's really good.
Yeah, right.
See, you see those, and then you see the victimhood thing that people, and see, I think it was a white woman who wrote that stupidity, but it was like, but I'm saying you see those things, but then you see this, and there's a point. There is a point to it, and it's like, and no matter what anybody says, that's what it looks like, and they could use that one in the middle of that 10,000 stupid ones. There's a point to something like that, and for one thing, she's also Muslim.
Right.
She's also Muslim, and it's like, and here's the thing. Muslim students used to be overly protected. Lately, and I'll tell you this, not lately, and one of the things is because a lot of them are fighting this whole situation with the QWERTY keyboard mobs, the LGBTQs. Is like they don't want the LGBTQ community. They don't want them getting overpowered, and they don't want the education in the schools. So they're fighting it more than a lot of the white population is. And so now the QWERTY keyboard mob versus it's basically woke clash on each other. Mm-hmm. So it's now they're not protected again. And it's like, where are we at? Does anything make sense?
No, the answer is no. Nothing makes sense anymore.
No. Yeah, right. Welcome. Here, my favorite catchphrase on tonight's show. Welcome to 2023.
Welcome to 2020s. It's absurd.
That we're halfway through 2023.
I know we are. And think about this. I was talking to a friend of mine tonight, and they said Madonna's in the hospital in the ICU with bacterial infection in her lungs.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, that's news to me.
And she's from Michigan.
And she is, and I'm like, I just said if she passes away, that's so 2020s.
Oh, for sure.
Well, listen, we lost Presley's daughter earlier in the year, but please, not Madonna too.
Yeah,
save one for next year or two.
Oh yeah, in 2020s we lost Kenny Rogers.
Oh, let's not get depressed here. We got
I know.
A header tonight, brother.
We lost so many legends in 3 years already.
I know. Including my legendary Aunt Judy. I love you, Aunt Judy.
And we have this, and let's go on to the next one because this is this was supposed to be the shorter one, but we have some good stuff going on here. The rise of Barstool and the rise of Barstool Sports and Outkick. Should ESPN be worried? I absolutely, especially when ESPN just lost a bunch of people. They've lost a pile of people, and they're going through a lawsuit with Sage Steele. Right. Sage Steele sued them because for every the liberal that was allowed to say their piece on the air, they suspended her. Yeah. They suspended Sage Steele for about a month and a half, because she said conservative views on the air over either gun control or abortion, either way. But she's conservative, so they went after her. So now you've got this. They've lost. Rob Ninkovich is gone. They've had 4 shows in 5 years trying to replace Mike and Mike because they didn't want Mike and Mike to get popular, and now they can't get those replaced because that's 4th show in 5 years. That was let's see, it was Keyshawn Johnson, Max Kellerman. Basically, Max Kellerman is more athletic. Skip.
Well, Max Kellerman should have been out of there 4 or 5 years old. Give me a break.
I know Max Kellerman's the more athletic. Is basically a more athletic looking version of Skip Bayless. Both are insane.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll tell you. Don't get me started on Max Kellerman. Otherwise, that replaces Diet Mountain Dew as the flavor of the night, man. Max Kellerman doesn't belong. He belongs on what you call maybe a low market radio because he doesn't belong in the major leagues. He's the luckiest, you know what, on the planet. The fact that he's held a job, you know, if he's with Skip Bayless, you might as well go ahead and watch The Exorcist because that's a horror freak show if I ever saw one.
That's the
and as far
truth.
as Keyshawn, you know what, he'll land somewhere else. He's a Southern California guy with deep ties to the LA area. And who's the other one? Jay Williams. You know what?
Yep.
To me, he had a potentially great NBA career, but he got busted up in a motorcycle accident in Sacramento, and he's never been the same because he's got some of the worst opinions I've ever seen. Rob Ninkovich, to me, you lose Neil Everett. Well, it wasn't bad. And what I'll tell you what we can do, and I know you're going to like this, Jacob. I know you really will.
Yeah.
And I'll give you 4 words, okay? Train wreck, sinking ship.
That's basically what ESPN is right now.
That's what it is. I don't watch it anymore. Then again, I got more important things to do than watch that. I'm working on building a network from the ground up here in Boca in addition to maintaining mine. You think I have time for underqualified journalists where this particular network has gone downhill ever since the likes of Bob Lee, Chris Berman, Tom Mees, and all these other legendary icons left? I mean, what do you have? Stephen A. Smith ranting and raving, thinking he can sure, you can produce your own show and overpower anybody you want. But are you looking for poor Stephen A. Smith? If they had any sense, they bring Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless back together and let them duke it out on the air. And that's what they should do.
Well, the thing about, you're right. And here's the thing, the Barstool and Outkick are both basically conservative basically outlets. That's what they are. And and then guess what? You have Tucker Carlson. I'm not the world's biggest fan of him myself, but he's showing what the new news is going to be. He's on Twitter. 12 minutes a week, giving his outlet, and that's what that is. And Elon Musk has given the option to every single liberal and conservative that want that shot also. And there's no liberals taking it right now by itself. It's like a lot, regardless of who it is, every single time. This is the whole point. This happened in the 50s when there was the McCarthy era. This happens the thing. The place that has the most power, they don't want the equality. They want the power. And the liberals are in that level right now, like the conservatives were in the 50s. Well, you don't want equality.
Let me tell you, I agree with you on another one, though, Jacob. Mike and Mike, get rid of that show was the worst mistake they ever made. I used to watch it all the time. Mike Greenberg's ego is bigger than the Titanic. That's why he got his own show. You bring on, when you have shows that only talk about 1 or 2 sports and they don't forget there's like 4 or 5 other ones, then who the heck wants to watch that? If I'm going to let you guys, I don't think that the New York Jets are America's team, but don't tell that to Mike Greenberg. My God, help me for sure. I mean, and the way I look at it is, when you have something good going, don't break it up.
The thing also about ESPN, as opposed to Barstool Sports and Outkick, the one thing, I can't remember his name. He's now at Fox Sports Radio, and I listen to him at night. And basically, what he said is that ESPN. He had so many good ideas that he wanted to bring up, but they censored him because they've been talked about all the time on the radio. And basically, he couldn't do what he wanted. So at least on Fox Sports Radio, he has a chance to do that. As for ESPN, and you guys hit it on the head, it's way going downhill. I don't remember the last time I actually watched ESPN other than watched Monday Night Football or the they have NHL and they have the NBA.
Right.
Otherwise, their programming to me is the same. It's the same subjects with people arguing. And you guys are definitely right. Mike and Mike kept it afloat, and now they can't replace them. So yeah, it's definitely sinking ship, like you said, Scott.
Well, it's god awful. Come on, Jordan, you know that. When you lose Bob Lee, you lose the sports reporters, you lose one darn good show after another. I used to watch a lot of those shows before I started my day on Sunday, but the sports reporters are the best thing to have. The only thing that's really good there anymore is Pardon the Interruption with Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser.
Oh,
and
100%.
I met both of those at separate times. And here's the thing about, I'll never forget about Pardon the Interruption. When Damar Hamlin had his thing, that I had CNN's Jerome Jurinovich. I know you've heard of him, right? On my show.
Mm-hmm.
And I had him on there with George Eichhorn. And I asked Jerome, how on earth can ESPN get it wrong? And even Herman Edwards, I lost total respect for this moron. when he thought, I've never seen this happen in the NFL about a guy dying in the field. Well, hello, Chuck Hughes. It did happen when I was there back in 71. So Jerome tells me, Scott, here's the deal, man. Okay, they have a lot of young producers and they don't research well enough. But yeah, Mike Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser got it right, and nobody else did. When you talk about pathetic journalism, that was it. And we all talk, Jacob, you always talk about mainstream media and all that business. Forget about mainstream media. What about Googling it, making sure you get it right, as I've always said about Frank Reynolds, right?
Right, yeah.
The Sage Steele thing is going to really burn them bad because they offered her $501,000 to keep her mouth shut and she wouldn't do it.
I don't blame her.
I wouldn't either.
Now you're getting woke clashing into each other again. Now it's a black journalist, which this is the big thing about this. They're talking, you get someone like Jamel Hill, who was talking about let's get black journalists, let's get our own individual show. Then guess what? Say that you offer it to Jason Whitlock. Not a fan again. I'm not a big fan of him either. But Jason Whitlock, no, but not him. But not him. It's conservative journalists. I'm not fans of these people for various reasons. One of the biggest reasons, Sage, to me, I haven't seen enough of, so we could be able to get. I'm not a fan of individual journalism with an individual mindset by itself. But, it's like, because you get into the trap, and this happens with every person, journalist, and whatever. You get into the trap of saying how much this one side does wrong, that you are completely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You get into that trap where if you're a conservative, the liberals do all wrong, and we are, it's like 80s WWF wrestling. We're all friends. That kind of BS. You get into that trap. No one is perfect. And it's like when you talk about what the liberals did wrong as a conservative, or what the conservatives did wrong as a liberal, then, like, for instance, say, we talk about, we can talk about Trump, what he's done, how much cheating he's done as a whatever, even as a Republican. What do we talk about John Edwards years ago? We can talk about however many, Bill Clinton, John F. Kennedy, keep bringing it. But then if the conservatives do it, how many could we? You can bring up Trump, grab him by the, what? We could. When I'm as a producer, I'm not going to bring the word like that. But
Jacob, here's the thing: we can talk about all this stuff you're talking about all day long, but there's one big rule in the media that I'm sure you guys know. If you haven't, learn it. Okay, you can't get away losing great talent and expect to be relevant. And if you do, you're going to lose your following. And here's the thing: unfortunately, Dick Schaap passed away. Too bad. I love watching him. Old school journalism. His son, Jeremy's not bad. John Saunders, another guy you lost, okay?
Yeah.
Rich Album was pretty good. You lose a lot of great shows. I know Bob Ryan personally, and Bob Ryan's great. And then you have garbage like Around the Horn, where I had Jay Crawford on the show one time, and he once told me that's all fixed like you wouldn't believe. They all determined who wanted to win. That's what he told me. And then they ended up coming. Did you guys know that? They all did. It was predetermined who was going to win.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Yeah, it was. So here's my thing. Mainstream journalists here 101, Christner, okay? You cannot keep losing good people, man. I'm telling you. You
knew that was fixed because Jay Mariotti would win most of the darn time, and he was as hateful to everything as you could get.
The only reason why
he worked in Detroit and got run out of Detroit, went to Chicago, got run out of there. So what's the difference?
The only reason why I watched Around the Horn was to see Woody Page, just to see him do pro Denver stuff because
I know your vested interest in there. I know people that work in that market a long time ago. My buddy Tony DeMarco, you ever heard of him?
Yep.
Yeah, he's my mentor, and he used to live there and tell me all kinds of stories about Page and the rest of those guys. But no, I understand your Denver interest in Woody Page, and I liked when you had Woody Page and Skip Bayless over on ESPN, because then you had two whole art school journalists going at it, and it was fun to watch. But when you have a guy who's the biggest ranter on the planet, give me a break. It's like a heavyweight fighting a welterweight. What chance do you have to win there? You might as well bring back Mike Tyson and Peter McNeely if you're going to do that.
Well, the biggest thing about it is Barstool's. The biggest things I brought Barstool Sports and Outkick because they kind of veered toward the conservative thing, but that's not even really the point. It shouldn't be that way, but it does, and it's because ESPN put it on themselves. Then Tucker Carlson, 26 million a week watch him. It'll be 9 million will watch him in the first 45 minutes of it when it first comes on, which is more than his show got on Fox, which is a huge network. Network is going away, but it's like people wonder why they get so big and why the conservative deal gets so big. It's the whole, we talk about the whole victimization thing. They've got the victimization down pat, especially the Midwest, the South. These, you get all of these, areas that it is just, look, you had the show Schitt's Creek. I mean, it's small town. It's like, you got to have a rolling shit. That's what these coastal areas think of those Midwest and stuff like that, especially after Trump got it. But when they start understanding what they keep doing, then they'll understand when this has been way back. Dukes of Hazzard was number one forever. They got rid of them after 85, and they could have gone another 2 or 3 more years probably. And it's like they didn't want, but they don't want they call them hayseed shows. HBO did not want Yellowstone because they said, oh my God, that's like, oh my God, Midwest. It's like middle of the road. I mean, we're trying to be cool and hip. Meanwhile, the one they chose over it went after 1 year.
Well, you know what, Jacob? I'm going to challenge you right in front of our audience,
Sure.
Okay? And that's this. Next week's topic, once ESPN releases all the new people on the air, I want you to make sure you have a list and send it to us via text, and then we can talk about them because we like to do lists on Sideline Sports, and I think that would be a great list to add to some of the other ones. And then you know what you're going to find? You're going to go to a cemetery that all you got left in the closet's a bunch of skeletons because there isn't much meat left over there. So I'm gonna tell you, okay, it's the truth. And you know, I'm feeling really good. I remember I had 2 MRIs today in concussion syndrome, and that was loud as heck. I'm just glad I was able to make it on tonight's show and the other ones, because you ever have an MRI under concussion syndrome? Oh, that's one big headache waiting to happen 10 times over. But no, I'm feeling good enough now, though. Just in time to show up twice, okay? But I'm telling you, you get a list of all the most recent ESPN people and bring it on as a topic, and then all of us can be on here and talk about it, and then you're going to find out what's left. Fair enough?
Remind me of that. What are the next topics for next week? Anything else you have to say, Jordan?
No, it's just like you guys are saying, ESPN is definitely a sinking ship. It's not what it once was. They've gotten rid of a lot of talent. And honestly, if you look at Barstool, they're using the new technology with podcasts and a lot of the, Twitter. I don't see ESPN doing that a whole heck of a lot these days.
Well, they're not. And Dan Lebatard was smart enough to leave there. And a lot of other ones had enough guts after he left to bolt, too. Mike Golick's making out all right. He's got himself a gig. He's made enough money over there. Everybody, just because you leave ESPN doesn't mean you're not going to get a job anywhere else. Just remember that.
And that's true. And the thing is, we bring this part up. I'm going to bring up the whole Yellowstone thing before we get to this. HBO literally said, the HBO, the executives literally said, oh my God, that's middle America. We're trying to be hip and cool. Their choice for a show went after 1 year. And then meanwhile, Yellowstone's the number 1 show around money-wise, everything, which HBO could have done. This is the thing. They're trying to say white isn't cool. White is still 71% of the country. And it's like, we shouldn't be talking skin color like this at all. We shouldn't be, but we're doing this in 2023. And it's like, it's still 71% of the country. And here's what's going to happen. And here's what's going to happen in the midst of all of that kind of crap. It's the fact that you get cyclical. Right now, you get people that are doing the victimization. Right. You know what's going to happen? You got Elon, who just took over Twitter, and he's helping out on one side. Soon enough, the conservatives are going to take it over. We're going to see worse racism you're ever going to see in your life out of revenge. You're going to see something like that. We don't need revenge. We need to get together. We've got to quit this, or things are going to die. We're going to cave in on ourselves. Right. Because we're going to see ourselves another McCarthy era deal out of revenge.
I said all I'm going to say about this.
You bet. Let's get to the next. And thanks for the heart, by the way, whoever did that. That's cool. And the next thing, let's get to the next one because it's about Wrigley Field, one of my favorite subjects. And when we go into confidential tonight, 17,000 square foot DraftKings sports bar, inside of Wrigley Field. Great. You remember when it was Ivy, that one board at the top, them and Fenway were the last 2 without the electronic deal. You had the handmade everything. The Ivy, You had people that were drunk, basically at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then your entertainment was the Billy Goat Bar and whatever you would go to, and the Wrigleyville and all that kind of stuff. That was your entertainment. Now, now everything inside of Wrigley completely rebuilt, more seats, and now the sports bar where you can bet. Go ahead, bud.
I just think this is great. I know as of right now, they haven't had the opportunity to gamble, but it's going to do next month where they're going to be able to gamble. I looked into, what it looks like, and it's pretty sweet. I mean, it looks like a great place to watch a game, even though it's in Wrigley Field, but you don't even need a ticket to go into it. That's the greatest thing. You don't need a baseball ticket. You can just go there, watch a couple of games, and then leave. And the nice thing is they're going to have a video, board that's going to show some games. I think, honestly, this is where betting is going. A lot of teams are already having betting places in their stadium, so why not this? I think this is actually a great deal for Wrigley Field and DraftKings Sports for sure.
Oh, I love it. I love everything Tom Ricketts is doing. Number one, he got a championship, so that doesn't hurt either. Okay, let's forget over 100 years, and this guy finally pulled it off. Number two, they're putting a 17,000 square foot sport park in. So what they're doing is they're making it a year-round facility is what they're doing, where you can drive revenue. And you know what? To me, the Cubs are a team which, and I'm going to talk about them in the Sports Exchange. So for a lot of people that want to pay attention, I'm not giving it away. But when it comes to what Tom Ricketts has done with his stadium, preserving an old beauty and still keeping it relevant so everybody can have a lifelong bucket list to go there, no matter what changes he's going to make to this thing, Wrigley Field will always be Wrigley Field, and the essential characteristics are going to remain intact. I've been there once, and I had a chance to spend time with Harry Carey. It was pretty cool on the field over at Wrigley. It was really neat. One of these days I'd like to get back there. It doesn't hurt the JB Ellis are there either. So, but still, I love everything they're doing. I'm glad they're going to make it a year-round kind of thing. And if this is where betting is going, you might as well pump as much revenue into a facility as much as you can, whether it's scheduled football games there if they can do it, or any other games that they've done. In addition to this, there's everything right about this and nothing wrong with that. More power to the Ricketts and the Cubs and everybody. I'm glad they're doing this. I really am.
Well, I brought up the whole situation about where I thought I brought it in one of my columns about where I thought that eventually we're going to start seeing more roofs on stadiums and stuff like that. The biggest thing is this isn't going to be the Harry Carey era anymore, where it's like, well, she's kissing him on the balls and he's kissing her on the strikes. You ain't going to see something like that because it's going to be you're not going to be able to see anything and be able to bring it up because no one's going to be in the sun. People aren't going to be in not too many people other than the older crew will ever be in the sun, and maybe the kid. You're going to see a lot of shaded areas. I've gone to 4 or 5 times to SunTrust Field, and there is a ton of shaded areas, just the way it was built. It's like sitting in the sun is brutal in Atlanta in July, and they knew that. And eventually they're going to do rebuilds and try to get more shaded areas. It's going to start happening. And the thing about it, and also SunTrust, Truist, excuse me, not SunTrust. Truist, you're going to see this also. They've got real estate all over the place now, and that is what the new world is. We brought up Miami a couple of weeks ago, and it's like they don't have. That's their big mistake. They don't have real estate around their park. Right. Tampa doesn't have the great amount of real estate in there. Theirs looks like a prison. So it's like there's like a prison in which my mom and in about a week or two, my mom, my brother, and my nephew are going to the game. They watch the Braves against Tampa. And they're going to see that, and it's like the one great thing about it is that we're glad that none of them are going to sit outside in that horrible sun in Tampa in the middle of July. But the biggest thing about it is people. This isn't a thing where you have the time at the ballpark anymore. Even 20 years ago, it was. Like I watched the Cubs. I watched the Cubs 2003, a little replay of it when Kerry Wood hit that homer in Game 7.
Right.
Him and Moise Alou hit those home runs in Game 7 were as big of gigantic blowouts as there was even winning the World Series for the Cubs. That is the truth of it. It was like because of all the phones, because of all of the distractions now, you have that. You have those situations. And it's like it's not the same blowout anymore, but you know something? You have to go with the flow of life. And what do you think about it, Jordan?
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry. Can I interject something real quick, please? Okay. Yeah, here's the thing. A lot of today's new stadiums are having amenities, okay, around it. So, like, for example, back home in Detroit, Little Caesars Arena, if you've ever been there, it's unbelievable. And they even have a practice rink inside of it where they use for youth. And sometimes these seats may look a little emptier because they're everywhere else. So it doesn't matter. So this is a new trend. And that's what we're seeing at Wrigley. Sorry, Jordan. I just want to make sure I got that point out there.
Oh, you're good. I will say, with all the building around the stadiums, that's what's happening. I know the Colorado Rockies, granted they're terrible, their ownership, as much as I've criticized them, they actually opened up a place, I think it's like Larimer Square or something around there, that you can actually watch games. If I go to, Invesco, or not Invesco, Mile High Stadium, or even where Ball Arena is, there's not a whole lot down there. They do have a couple of restaurants, but that's another place that I know Kroenke has said, oh, I want to have, watch parties there, which they have. He wants to do a lot of real estate. So if you're going to make some money that way, might as well do that. That way you can actually make it not only a fan experience, but at least have people there to enjoy more of the experience rather than just going in. And I know that's what the Avalanche and the Broncos should do, but they're not. The Rockies have done a great job with that.
You know what that's called? That's called manufactured money is what it is, because you're thinking on your feet to be able to create something around it. Remember the words, manufactured money. Just like in baseball, you have manufactured runs. You may not always hit a home run, but the object of the game is to score runs, whether you have to do a small ball or big ball, and manufactured money. And I think what they're doing at Wrigley is brilliant. And they're starting to do it in a lot of places. But since you brought up the 17,000 square foot DraftKings sports bar inside of an iconic field, no wonder it's such an excellent thing to talk about.
And what we're going to do our final notes. And I'm going to say this, Jordan. We started this before you were back because I knew you took a hiatus. We do a final note, anything that we can be able to talk about coming to your head. Do you have anything for tonight, just a final word? Because I'm going to go last.
I really don't have anything. I mostly said what I had to say before, but I will say with the Colorado Rockies, we saw the other night 13 runs in one inning. That was a franchise record. It just, to me, the Rockies are just a dysfunctional team. I know a lot of people here in Colorado want the Monforts to sell the team. They won't, because they're going to get that revenue. I don't know how much lower that the team can get for fans to stop going, stop caring. The problem is I don't know if either one of you have been to Coors Field, but Coors Field is one of the more pretty old ballparks that I've been to because of the fact that you have the mountains in the background. And the thing is what are you going to do in Denver when it's, after basketball season and before football season? There's not much to do. So I don't know how you can, send a message to the ownership, because fans are going to still continue to go. I know they're not hardcore baseball fans, they're just the casual baseball fans. But again, I don't know how you can stop them from going.
Yeah. And Scott.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Okay. Over the offseason, the New York Mets spent a lot of money on players, and a lot of them are past their prime. Okay. I just hope one thing happens about this whole problem with the Mets, that Buck Showalter doesn't take the fall for this. I really hope he doesn't, because number one, I've always believed he's a good manager, but when you start bringing in older players that are past their prime and you're trying to win now, and then you make financial decisions that you may regret, this seems very possible that they could be sellers at the deadline. It's real possible. But I enjoy Steve Cohen's passion as an owner. He'll go out there and take care of his players. I think the one guy that got hurt, he's taking care of him for an entire year with rehab and all that stuff and dieting. But he's a great owner. He's the best owner they've had in a long time that cares about his team. But you can't depend on older players in a closing window to do what you got to do. But please, I just hope Buck Showalter doesn't take the fall for everything that's going. It's too bad that these last two jobs where he had success may end up, to me, ending the wrong way.
And I got something tonight to be able to say. This is a call out, and not a mean one, but I'm going to say this is to Barack Obama. President Obama. let me say this. You said something that was completely correct in the middle of this situation. You talked about how it was completely biased, that we talked about that Ocean Gate, that ridiculous submarine, over the migrant boat that was about to sink in the middle of the sea or something like that. You talked about all of that. Yeah, you're correct. Welcome to the game. Welcome. We've been talking about this every single week on Pundit's Pundit, how the journalism is biased. We talk about it all the time. And they talked about it. You know why they talked about it? Because they found a reason to. 5 white people that were rich. It is a double whammy for them to go after something. Meanwhile, like you brought up the let's see here. What was that? Your migrant boat? The migrant boat you were talking about didn't get hardly any play. You caught what we've been talking about the whole time, didn't you? Hey, Brock, you and Michelle. No, okay, I'll call you Mr. President. You were a president, so we'll give you this. You and Michelle have a Netflix deal. How about get yourself a deal where you get investigative journalists and get a show talking nothing but honest journalism, bringing it on Netflix and getting a show. We'll even help you. We'll bring the thing there. We'll get to this thing. There's only one caveat to it. It's going to be everybody. It's not going to be just liberals. It's not going to be just conservatives. I know you wouldn't do that, but you get my point. It isn't going to be that. It is going to be everyone. Guess what? You know what you missed in the middle of that whole thing, Mr. President? You missed a little boy that we talked about in this thing, Sir Antonio Brown, who got shot. You did it in the middle of the thing because you had to bring up the whole Jordan Neely deal, or the whole guy that choked the man out in the middle of the subway. You had to bring that up. You missed this little 6-year-old kid that got shot in his yard. This wasn't even a color thing. That was a little black kid, 6-year-old black kid with 30 shells around him. You missed that. You missed that. You were part of the problem with that, but I'm not going to put a blame. I'm not going to put a thing on you. This isn't a hateful thing. I would even love you to come on this show. And we all talk about this thing and be able to bring this. But either way, I want to see journalism good too. I want to see it honest too. We bring it all up, but it means everything. If it means a Texas school that is hiding problems with sexual assaults in a classroom where a teacher is at, even if because Texas is conservative, we're talking about it. If it's about Sir Antonio Brown, we're talking about it. If it's about that migrant boat, we're talking about it. If it's about Ocean Gate, we're talking about it. It all gets talked about. It's like you probably aren't watching. No, we know they're not watching. It is we're such a short thing right now. We are a startup, but maybe he'll see this in 10 years down the line. See the idea. It's like, let's get real journalism back. I'm going to agree with you, even if I don't agree with everything, President Obama. How about that idea? You've got a Netflix deal. How about we start there? And I was just going to say, if anybody had anything to add, we'll just get it because we're at 53.
No, to be honest with you, I think you really covered a lot. I really do. And when it comes to political things that you take a strong stance on, I'm one of those kind of people who would really rather defer to you in this situation because I know you put a lot of thought in it. I personally don't really like to dive into that arena. I'm just being frankly honest with you. But I appreciate everything you say because you're doing the best you can to be objective and seeing both sides as much as you're able to do that. So. Absolutely.
And I know what I vote. Anybody can look at it and can see where I vote. It's not the thing.
Right.
But I'm in the journalism field now, even if it is a thing, even if I'm a pundit.
Right.
I'm not trying to get people to go take the whole thing. I'm trying to get an objectiveness to this thing for real, for legit. I've gone on shows on our network to talk about the thing, especially I've gone on some of our shows where we've had, with basically with some of our black personalities. I've gone on late at night when it was asked to be able to have the conversation that we would need because I wanted the objectivity out of this world. I have a different skin color. So what? They have a different skin color. So what?
Yeah, but the one thing you've maintained, and I got to give you a lot of credit for this, is ever since I brought Frank Reynolds up, I think you have learned to stand by the Frank Reynolds code of journalism. And
yeah.
that's the one thing that to me is so invaluable. Folks, I'll say this, okay? I know we're winding down a little bit here, but if you ever get a chance to go out there and put a YouTube or Google Frank Reynolds of ABC Reagan assassination, if that doesn't explain anything about journalism, I don't know what will. He's all about getting it right, and I'm glad that Jacob, you and I continue to talk about Frank Reynolds and honor his memory to this day and every opportunity we get on these shows.
Absolutely. And for Jacob Christner, the Pundit's Pundit, for Jordan Long, welcome back. Let's see you here for a while. And Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, this is Pundit's Pundit for the night. We'll say goodbye.
Good night.
A good one.